Okay, so to start off, our project structure will be basically identical to what Casey established. We'll have our main directory, XCB Handmade in my case, and we'll also have our code directory, and also we'll have our build directory that we are going to be making by scripting. Let's go into the code directory, and inside we have three files: our our main platform layer file, our build file, and a helper file that I like to also make for my project, which just helps a little bit. You basically use this to run directly from the code folder rather than to go into another folder and have to change Windows and everything like this. Whatever. Let's go to. Let's see first the build. Our build is not very much to say. We are creating our build folder. We're going to one directory before, and we'll create our build folder. So we start this for the code directory. We are going to the main directory. That's what we're going for, and in there we create our build folder. For the while using the DC compiler, you can use Clang if you want. Not very much, not a lot of difference in both. I think the only difference was the compile time, which Clang takes a little bit longer than GCC for my experience. But you can choose whatever compiler you most likely. I think. We so there after the GCC we have the arguments, our file which we are building, our output directory, and also the name of the file where output. So we specify our build directory, and in here it's the name of the actual file. Here we don't actually need this O0 flag. It's just I like to make explicit because I can change very easily every time I want to check if there are some differences between all levels, because there are some cases where your code will actually works in some all level but not in others. But you don't need to actually define this if you don't want to. And for us, we are linked with the XCB library, which is what we are going to use for our Windows menus. So think this has the equivalent to the Win32 library in Windows. Alright. So next, our run folder, also very simple. We first build the, so it's not really run.sh is kinda misleading. In practice it's more like build and run, because we're also basically doing everything that we're doing in the build file of the build script file, but we're also running the actual output. We're running practice. We're pushing into the build folder, and in there we are running the file that we have output with the actual thing. And for us, a platform. But since this is the first episode, it's also very simple. We have only 11 lines or 12, I believe. We don't actually have in XCB. We don't actually have uh, the equivalent to show message. So we'll also box max out whatever the um, function was called. So in actually we'll have to do something completely different to check if the if the XCB lib is working properly. And the first thing we include both the XCB slash XCB.h, which is our XCB folder, not has a problem, I guess, and our std.io, which from std.lib, or the C standard libster, better say. Sorry. Which for the printf with T is what we are going to use to test if we are setting up everything correctly, or if the XCB laboratories we are what's going or is what we are going to use is actually working properly. So first we have our main function, I guess you'll see, or our main entry point in this case, which is completely different for the how entry point works in Windows, because here we don't really have a different entry point for application and application and console application. We don't have there. Everything is just the one entry point. One thing that we kind of have different for is that we can define let me show. We can actually define our entry point like this, and basically the only difference that if you are defining like this, you can get the argument for that he is sometimes specified, sometimes not. We don't really want that. We are just making an application that just runs. You don't actually need any arguments for that. So we can just not using, I guess, keeping our code simple. We don't need to import any of the extra stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to establish a connection to the X server, which is and explain a little bit of what that is. Most Linux distros will come with something called the X server fund for the window manager which is called the X window manager, I believe, and well, it's in the name. It's X server, so you don't connect to the internet or anything. You just have each machine runs its own X server, and to interact with it first needs to establish a connection with. So we're establishing a connection for the user machine like this. We can establish by XCB connect, we return a connection, and in the end we also disconnect from the X server. I'm going to explain a little bit more of the connection as I explained more of the later episodes or the later days that I organize. But for now, that's just the idea you need for to understand what this is about. We just to check if you are connecting to the X server properly, we can use XCB connection has here to check kind of self-explanatory if we get a proper connection or not. If this return if this return true, just because we have an error to the connection, and, so since we don't have still an equivalent to the no the the message box, we can check it. Sorry, we can check only right now. We can check if we establish the connection correctly by doing some basic printing functions. So if we fail, we put fail to connect. If there was no problems with the connection, we can print connection with X server established. So right now, in theory, we can run our builds, but not actually, because as you can see, we don't have we got a permission denied, which does mean we don't have the permit. So to give the permit, we can do it like this, and then we specify what our file we want to give the permission. So chmod plus x, and other file we want to specify that we want to give the permission to execute. So like that, we can now build our file, and I did some mistakes here. Let's go back. And now we have our build folder, and inside that we'll have our handmade with the executable. We can just go in and execute the actual file, but as I said, I like to make a run folder because I don't want to be changed directives every time I want to execute the full. So well, also, since this is a .sh file, we also need to give it the appropriate permissions. Run.sh, and we'll now run our program. So as you can see, connection with the X server established. Well, establishing everything properly. Yeah, that's the day one